I have two very special guests with me here this evening. Right up above, I've got Billy Lester, prosthetist, and right next to me, I've got Ahmad, and they're both prosthetists from Kenney Orthopaedics, and they are on loan to me tonight, courtesy of Click Medical, my sponsor for this evening. So guys, those of you who are watching the replay, thank you again for watching the replay. Y'all are great about commenting. Hit replay in the section, give me a shout out. And if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the comments section as well. After the show ends, I always go back to check and see who's watching the replay and to try to capture any questions. So guys, we're going to give you a couple minutes to jump on board. In the meantime, gentlemen, do you guys have anything interesting in your glasses this evening? Anything?
H2O.
No? Oh, really? Wah, wah.
Maybe a little Don Julio.
There we go. Cheers to you. Cheers to you. And guys, cheers. I am drinking out of my Click Medical Yeti mug. So the reason why I am plugging this evening is because we're going to be giving a lot of these away tonight. Hey, Kevin, we got you on board. Kevin listening in from the YouTube channel. All right. And hopefully Jamie is going to be coming on board right now. So Jamie, we're going to give you another minute to get yourself situated. And we're going to do that picture that you've been wanting us to do. So guys, as you come on board, those of you who are new, part of the initiation ritual to Cosi Talks is you got to let me know who you are, where you're from, and what is in your mug this evening. We got Francis coming in from Orlando, Rob coming in from Indiana with Diet Mountain Dew. All right. Guys, don't be shy. I know sometimes the responses come in just a little bit late, but we're going to go ahead and wait. We got, hey, Scott there from West Virginia with his cold water. You're a buddy of Ahmad's right there. And we got Denise, there's my Tar Heel from North Carolina. Go Heels, water as well. Richard on board with his Kona coffee. Oh, that's the way to go. That's the way to go. On the way to Texas. All right, guys, we got a really special show on board this evening. Click Medical has been sponsoring this show now for 2 years, and it's really been a joy working with the team. I know many of you are users with RevoFit. But tonight we're going to change the angle just a little bit, pun intended. We got Emily here from Central PA. She had her appointment with her physiatrist. OT evaluation on the 17th, might be in rehab by the end of next week. And she's got Dunkin' Donuts spiked iced tea tonight, and that does sound delicious. Let's see, we've got Linda here coming in from New York, and we've got Jean. I'm seeing a lot of new names here this evening, guys. So whether it's because this is your first time on the show, or this is the first time maybe you're commenting on the show, welcome. My name is Cosi Belloso. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist. And like I said, this evening I have Ahmad and Billy, two wonderful prosthetists from Kenney Orthopaedics, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So we're going to put this way. I got to point this way. Ahmad, you're up first. So tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Hey, Cosi. So my name is Ahmad. I'm originally from Afghanistan. I came to the States for my bachelor's. To Kentucky. My bachelor's is in applied technology and applied design. After I graduated, I wanted to find work in the prosthetic field specifically because Afghanistan has a large number of landmine victims. So I kind of wanted to be in the field to hopefully at some point work with amputees back home. And I was fortunate enough to find a position as a tech in Kenney Orthopaedics in 2017. And like the Drake song, we started at the bottom, now we're here. So I'll make one quick correction. I am a CPOA, so I'm a assistant. Billy's the prosthetist. But now I'm leading our 3D lab, doing a lot of 3D printed diagnostics and other devices. So it's been a fun ride.
No, and thank you for being with us this evening. All right, Billy, you're up.
I think Ahmad's being modest. He's a CPOA, but he knows he knows a hell of a lot more about digital OMP fabrication than I do. So he runs all our digital side of Kenney Orthopaedics, which is a significant amount of business. So don't be so modest, Ahmad. My name is Billy Lester. I'm a CPO out of Lexington, Kentucky. I've been with Kenney Orthopaedics my whole life, my whole career. So the owner and founder, Mo Kenney, gave me a job when I was in college, pouring plaster and being his grunt, and mentored me along. I eventually went to Northwestern University and did my residency with Kenney Orthopaedics, partnered in with Mo back in 2009, and we've grown from practice location to now we just opened our 22nd location in Kentucky, Indiana, and North Carolina. So we've been fortunate to grow the way we have, and it's because of the people that we surround ourselves with and the technology that we use. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having us tonight, Cozy, and look forward to meeting everybody and trying to help answer some questions.
That's wonderful. And thank you guys in advance again for taking times from your lives to be with us here this evening. And we've got already this ticker tape is going crazy tonight. So we got Chuck here from Wyoming. We got Click Medical guys. We're supposed to take a picture. So ready, guys? We're going to smile. Bob's going to get in on the picture. Ready? We're going to smile for Jamie. 1, 2, 3. Peace. All right. Jamie, I hope you got that picture because Bob said he's not doing that again. All right. We got Andrea on board. She is my token occupational therapist from Gatorland. We got Compadre on board. Steven says, from New Jersey, got my first prosthetic today, Pinlock, and it feels good to be vertical instead of on 2 instead of 1. Congratulations to you. We got Felicia on board. We got a lot of people. We got Mark S. is taking time away from watching his sports to be with us here tonight. I'm always teasing you, Mark. We got Harsh. We got Susan. Man, we got all the good regulars on here. So guys, tonight we are going to be reviewing RevoFit because it's just, well, I'll just say it's kind of one of my favorite products out there on the market right now. But we're going to be talking a lot about the RevoSurface, okay? So let's talk a little bit about what is adjustability. You know, we hear that term a lot. We hear it, you know, in a lot of the Facebook amputee support groups. So for my newcomers here who have not seen any of my Click Medical shows, adjustability basically means the chance for you to adjust the fit of your socket while you're on the go. Okay, so basically instead of having to take your socket on and off to put on socks or take off socks, there is some form of adjustability built into the socket so that you can either turn a click reel or you can handle a ratchet in some cases and adjust the fit of the socket itself, and the size can be adjusted. Now, Click Medical is one of the solutions out there for adjustability. It is not the only option out there for adjustability. And I always tell you guys, you need to be informed consumers. So you need to take what it is that you learn on this show, talk to your prosthetist, talk to your physical therapist, and explore what the other options are and compare to see what is going to work best for you. So why is it important for us to have adjustability? So I know you guys can probably echo this sentiment, but probably one of the biggest problems I run into with my new patients and even some of my veteran patients is the frustration with learning how to fit the socket properly when you have a new socket. So with the limb volume fluctuations going on, especially in those first 1.5 to 2 years after amputation, the frustrations that people experience from trying to figure out how to fit their socket. So Billy, I'm going to pick on you first. How do you feel that plays a role when you see your patients in terms of the struggles that they might have when they're first learning to use their socket?
Yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time on education, right? I mean, we educate our patients how to manage sock ply. You know, it's like, you know, for prior to an amputation, right? You try to use the reference. You ever get up in the morning and try to put on your ring or try to put on a watch? Sometimes it slides right on. Sometimes it's too tight, right? And it's no different than your leg. It's just a bigger feature that happens. So your body fluctuates so much, whether you realize it or not. And so trying to spend time on the front end on the education side is, I think, invaluable. And I think it's a lot of time that we spend with patients is educating on how, because we're not with them, right? I mean, they leave and they're spending time with their physical therapist or they go home. And, you know, it's like taking your car into a mechanic. You know, the times that the car leaves and it's great, but when you have issues, you got to be able to self-diagnose and do some things on your own. So, you know, we spend a lot of time on sock ply management. And with that, you know, in combination of sock ply management on top of new technology like Click, it allows us to educate and put the user, you know, put the adjustment back in the patient's hand on the fly, right? And I think that's what's so important about these newer technologies that are coming out is it's allowing people to be more independent. You know, nobody likes to go in and have to take their leg off to adjust sock ply or pull their pants down or try to figure out how to get their pant leg up above and slide down their sleeve to be able to put on another sock, right? If you give somebody the adjustment to live a normal life, keep going, And with a couple turns of a reel, they can make an adjustment that makes them comfortable again.
Mm-hmm. And Ahmad, I'd love to hear your comments on this as well.
Yeah, so I'm gonna speak from like a fabrication
Mm-hmm.
aspect. Whenever we fabricate transtibial or transfemoral sockets, we use carbon fiber because you want the patient to be in a device that can provide them with as much safety as possible. But that comes with the side effect of a very rigid device, and the human body needs something that's compliant. So we need a device that is strong, but at the same time that can be adjusted. And that's where Click, I think, gives us both features in the same device. So it's a great innovation.
So we've got Benjamin saying he's a bilateral BK, and he says, I've had my legs for about a year and they're starting to not fit well. So this is very interesting for me. Yes, so definitely stick around, Benjamin. Collector's Edge is saying, I'm excited to learn more about Click and I will be getting it in my new socket. Then you are in the right place tonight to ask all of your questions. Let's see. And Emily says, I found out today that my limb has shrunk a little bit more since my first appointment, and I wouldn't have noticed had they not taken measurements. So guys, let's just talk a little bit about that. You know, and those of you who have watched the show, you know I talk a lot about limb volume management and skin care management and everything that goes along with it. But, you know, in actuality, the first up to 2 years, guys, up to 2 years, that limb is changing volume, okay? In the first few months, it's basically all the edema, all the swelling from the actual surgical amputation itself, right? So all of the soft tissues are kind of trying to get rid of that edema. And then over the course of time, you're also going to start seeing changes in the soft tissue, in the muscle, how it was reconnected after surgery, how it's being shaped, you know, in different ways to prepare for the prosthesis. And then once you start using that prosthesis, again, you're pumping fluid out of the limb, everything is remodeling, right? So everything is changing. And then once you reach that 2-year mark, and I'm going to be releasing a video of this pretty soon, some of you will achieve stability with your limb. Okay. And stability with your limb can mean one of two things. It either means that your limb stays exactly the same all day for the rest of your life. And I think I've met like 2 amputees, right? In my 23 years of practice that actually happens to. But for me, stable limb volume also means that it's predictable. Okay, so those of you who have stable limbs, you might wake up in the morning and you need 5 ply. By noon, you need 10 ply. And by the time you go to bed, you're maybe up to 15 ply. And then you start the morning off and it's pretty much the same thing, right? So your limb will change shape, but it's predictable for the most part throughout your day, okay? And then there's some of you that you will not achieve a stable limb, mainly because you have other issues. Some of you might have lymphedema. Some of you might have issues with your diabetes and your blood pressure that's causing a lot of limb volume changes going on, okay? So these are all things to think about when you're talking to your prosthetist about the possibility of having an adjustable socket. Okay, so what do you guys find in your 2 years, those first 2 years with your patients? Do you find that there's a lot of instability going on? And what do you see in your patients after those 2 years? Ahmad, I'm gonna let you go first on this one. Uh-oh. Ahmad, we're not hearing you.
That's on me.
There we go. I was like, oh no.
So since I work at a CFAB, after a while, some of the patient names, you kind of get familiar with them. And where you see most repeats are with new patients because the limb shape and volume changes so much. So they might get a socket initially, but once their distal end shrinks down, once the volume changes, they'll have to get a new socket unless it's something that's adjustable. So it's I'll let Billy speak more on that, but it's for newer patients, changes are pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, for the first 2 years, well, for your entire life as an amputee, change is inevitable, right? For the first 2 years, though, dramatically. And you know, I've got cases where, you know, we've had to replace socket changes on patients every 2 to 3 months. You know, just super active patients that would get up to 15 to 20 ply. I mean, you can't be comfortable on something like that, right? So, yeah, I mean, managing that and having expectations during those first couple of years is very important to know that, there's going to be change and to expect that and to be okay with that and be, in constant, the follow-ups, I think, are the most important visits with your prosthetist, because, starting out, a lot of people don't understand it. They don't know, even though they've been educated on it, it's different when it's you. And so the constant follow-ups to make sure that you're staying on top of a proper fit and what the proper fit feels like when especially in the first 6 months is very important. Just to maintain and protect the limb from, skin breakdown and other issues, right?
Absolutely. And if there's one thing I talk a lot about on this show, it's having that comfortable fit. And we're going to pause for just a minute because I promised Jamie that we would post for the first giveaway, and I'm going to do that right now. So guys, quick pause. I just posted a link to the RevoFit quiz. Now, guys, you hear me talk a lot about my sponsors on the show, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that I cannot do this show without the support of my sponsors. So in return, I like to show my sponsors love and support. The way you guys can help with that is by participating in these quizzes and these giveaways that you guys have done over the past couple of years through Facebook and Instagram. So here's one of them right now. If you can right click, don't click out of the show, right click on this link and just take the quiz. Some of you may have already taken the quiz. That's okay. Take it again. And you'll get a raffle entry, and we're going to announce a winner for the nice little Yeti mug that we have here, which is really, really, really nice. All right. So pause, going back. Okay. So when it comes to the fit, and guys, this was actually a question that came up on the show last week, is how do you know when your socket's not fitting anymore? How many ply is too many ply? And I answered by saying the textbook, right, will tell you that when you get to 8 to 15 ply, it's time to change the socket. But the real world answer is when you start losing the connection with the socket, right? And there are some folks, and I'm sure Billy and Ahmad can attest to this, that they go up to 6 or 7 ply and they're wigging out because they can't feel their socket anymore and they're losing that sense of proprioception. And then you have some people who are upwards of 20 to 25 ply, which I don't agree with, by the way, and they're still shuttling around in that socket.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. But having something like the Click Medical socket, which we're going to get into in a little more detail now, can help prolong the life of your socket if you're someone who's going through a lot of those changes right there. What's your record? I always like to ask Billy, what is the record number of ply that you've seen on a patient coming into your clinic?
35.
35. Holy cow. Oh my God.
Basically just walking in on a pillow.
There was 35. Up until now, I heard 30. I think you're the winner. How about you, Ahmad? You got any higher numbers than that?
That's it.
That's tough to beat 35. Yeah. That's like a whole nother leg they're adding on with their socks right there. That's like another Backstreet Boy that they're carrying around there. I mean, that's crazy.
Needless to say, he didn't like coming in for his follow-ups. He just managed.
He just managed. Oh my goodness gracious. Let's see. Benjamin says, my prosthetist wants to use shimmy socks and inserts before we go the new socket route. And yeah, I've seen prosthetists get all sorts of creative with how they try to pad the socket and try to squeeze the life out of the socket the most that they can. So what are some of the things that you try, Billy, on sockets when you see that folks are really starting to shrink too much? What are some of the adjustments you might make, including Click Medical adjustability?
Well, I think it's all patient dependent, right? Like what you said, the linkage of, what their expectation is on the linkage of their leg and the socket, and what type of activity, the level they're functioning at, I think makes a big difference. But typically, we'll add, a popliteal pad or pre-tib pads, or padding in between the flexible interface and the rigid frame if we're using a flexible interface. Things like that to prolong, if they've changed a lot so quickly, we'll do things like that. Tech pads or some other things. I know we use a lot of willow wood liners, so we'll use additional gel, like distal gel cups and things of that nature. Those are typically my go-tos on adjustability. If I'm not in a Click Medical socket. So
to try to kind of make things happen. Scott's trying to beat you out. He said I had 28 within months of getting my first socket.
That's strong, Scott. I mean,
it's a whole new word of meaning to bragging rights right there.
Yeah.
Guys,
I hope they were Tempur-Pedic socks.
All All right, guys. So let's bust out my old faithful model right here. So you guys have seen this model a lot. This is the RevoFit. Okay, so we're just going to go over the RevoFit real quick, and then we're going to move on to the star of tonight's show, which is the RevoSurface. So there's a lot of action going on here. So just so you guys understand, this is a model socket. This is not how the sockets typically look. Okay, they put everything onto one socket for me so I could show off all the bells and whistles. So they have 3 different ways of adding adjustability. They have something called the gap design, which it's exactly that. There's a gap in the rigid part of the socket. Then we have the panel design, which I'll pull that out so you can see here. So they put the panels, you click, and it tightens up. And then they have a 3rd way, which is called the hinge design. And that one is not in this particular model socket, but it just kind of hinges out just like that. So there's 3 different ways that you can put the adjustability in. And that's kind of one of the big reasons I love these particular model, just because there's so many different options for your prosthetist in terms of the kind of adjustability and where they can place it. Okay, and now they have, I got all the toys tonight, the click reel, which is their newer model. It's lower profile. You can twist it to tighten it. And then the nice thing is that you can twist it in the opposite direction to loosen it. So you've got those little micro adjustments, which for me, I think is even more accurate than a sock ply, right? Because with the sock ply, you still got what, like 2 to 3 millimeters or something like that? Is that roughly it? And then with this kind of adjustability, you can fine tune it even more. Okay. So have you guys been getting a lot of popular requests with the click reel in your clinic?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the newer click reel.
And if patients don't know about it, we suggest it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of nice because again, it's adjustable through the clothing. It's pretty low profile. Rob says the RevoFit was a game changer for me. Very active and kept losing suction until I got this. May look at the RevoSurface for my old socket as a spare. So Rob has already done his homework, so he knows what the RevoSurface is for. So guys, the RevoFit can adjust up to 10 ply. Okay. Uh-oh. All right. Steven says that we can't hear you. I froze or you froze. So I'm going to give it just a second, just to make sure. Okay. So it can adjust up to 10 ply. So if you're someone who typically goes up to 15 ply in one day, that means you would only have to wear a 5 ply sock. And that's a pretty significant difference, right? That's 2 less socks. If you're using 3 5 plies, that's 2 less socks that you have to wear. So that's something to definitely to think about. So let's talk about who's the candidate. So Ahmad, who do you think, who is your perfect candidate for an adjustable socket?
It's one that I did recently and one I have a demo of that I can show you as well. You spoke about the hinge design. So this is the hinge design. So you have a
You got it.
transtibial socket where you have a back panel that you can tighten to get
Very
compression
nice.
or loosen. So in this case, the patient's distal end, their AP is too big to fit through the socket. So in this case, the RevoSurface, even in the diagnostic phase, gives you this adjustability. And it's great because previously, if you wanted to do this with a diagnostic socket, you'd have to wrap it with fiberglass. Then you lose the ability to heat modify it or to even see any kind of contact through the socket. So for me, a patient with this that presents with this limb would be a good candidate.
Okay, so we have that with some of y'all who have like a little bit more of a bulbous end. Those of you who are my Symes amputations. Some of you who wake up in the mornings and you say that the distal end, the bottom part of your limb is just a bit more swollen and you have to do the whole hopping to try to get yourself into that socket. So having something like that hinge design really takes the abuse out of the limb and getting your limb into that socket. That is a really nice looking check socket there. Is that one of the 3D printed?
It is.
Show off, please.
Yeah,
show
yeah,
off.
yeah.
Now's the time.
So the socket is printed using PETG. It's the same material as Vivac that normally is used conventionally. So for our in our company, basically, the practitioners scan the patient. They don't cast. Everything is done digitally.
Mm-hmm.
They scan, they rectify it digitally, then they send the file to us, and we prep it for our 3D printers. So this socket took around an hour and a half to print. which is crazy because something this size, like 5 or 6 years ago, would take 7 or 8 hours. And
Wow.
this is printed to the finished trim lines, so you don't have to cut out anything. You save material, you save time. You don't have to mess with plaster, which is my main reason for doing it. Plus, it allows you to, before you even print it, prep it for something like this, where you know you're going to cut it. You're basically introducing, you're taking away from the structural integrity, but you can plan for that by making it stronger in areas that need to be beforehand. And you can also accommodate it for the dial beforehand by creating a flat surface in that area.
That's really nice. That's a nice looking socket.
Mhm.
So Benjamin is asking, is it harder to get approved for your insurance than the standard socket? So definitely a lot of it involves having the doctor, and Rob kind of responded quite nicely to that. And he said, the doctor wrote fantastic notes, documented the why we needed to switch to this socket design. And medical necessity always goes a very long way with insurance approval. And guys, I can speak, I'm going to put Click Medical on the spot here and just say that there have been a couple of you as viewers who had some trouble with getting your insurance. And Click Medical has offered their help to say, you know, hey, we can talk to your prosthetist and just see how we can help you get this approved. So again, it's a company that kind of puts their money where their mouth is and helping out folks with this issue. What is the projected life of the socket? That's a good question. Billy, I'm going to kick that one to you.
I don't think it's any different than any other type of socket. The material is the same material that we use in all sockets. With the older design, I haven't had to replace a new reel, but with the older designs, we would have to replace, we would have to do some maintenance on the lock, on the dial, but that's really about it. So the duration of the socket is the same.
Sounds good. And guys, I just got the winner in for our first part of the giveaway, for the quiz giveaway, and it is Anita. So Anita, if you're watching the show right now, I want you to, let me put my email on there. Guys, that's my email address. So Anita, if you're watching the show, please email me your address so we can send you your Click Medical Yeti mug. And guys, for those of you who are new to the show, that is, like I said, my direct email address. I'm the one who answers all those emails. So if you do have any questions about recovery from amputation in general, about anything you hear on the show tonight, if you think of a question that comes up after the show ends, don't be shy. Send me the email. That is the whole purpose of this show. All right. So let's see. Collector's Edge said, or Linda says, I have a pin lock and suction. Looking forward to adding my Click to my system. And someone earlier had asked, does the Click Medical RevoFit work with elevated vacuum? And the answer is yes. And we actually, guys, if you go to my YouTube channel, and yes, that is totally a shameless plug. It's under Cosi Talks. If you go to my YouTube channel, I actually did a show with Joe Mahan. He's the creator of Click Medical and RevoFit. And we talked all about the different suspension systems, including one that they have, which is called RevoLock. But yes, the RevoFit does in fact work with a lot of the suspension, all of the suspension systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Susan is asking, are they available in Canada? Jamie, your turn. I want to say yes, but I'm always very careful. I want to make sure. Linda's asking, are these recommended for bilateral above the knee amputees? So Ahmad, you want to take that one?
So the only limitation is patient weight. The Click recommends a dial per 100 kgs, so that's around 220 pounds. So that's the only limitation. There's no, you can be bilateral, unilateral, and you can have the system. So there's no limitation from that perspective.
There we go. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and post our next, Jamie, I'm keeping you busy tonight. We're going to post our next giveaway. So Jamie is going to post the link to the Click Medical Instagram and to the Click Medical Facebook. So we're doing Instagram and Facebook because I know some of y'all don't do Instagram, okay? You need to go to the link. It's about the post on RevoSurface, okay? And I want you to like that post, and then in the comments section, I want you to write, what is a benefit of RevoSurface? And I know we haven't gotten to that yet, but you guys can probably start to guess what some of the benefits would be, all right? So I'm gonna say that all again. Jamie's gonna post a couple of links, follow those links to the post, like the post, and tell us how can RevoSurface benefit you. Okay. Louise is saying, my last question was too long. Can you still see it, Kosi? No, Louise, can you please repost it? Sometimes with all the comments coming through, they push some of the comments out of the way. So please repost your question. Let's see. Click Medical is saying, yes, you can add 2 systems to accommodate for higher weights as well. David, glad you could join us. No problem being late there. All right. So Click Medical posted those links, guys. Hayes says, I'd also love to know if these are available in Ontario, Canada. And it sounds like, yes, they are available in Canada. And I do believe that they said, reach out to your provider and they can order through Orthoped. And guys, go to the Click Medical website. We're going to post it up here as well. If you go to the Click Medical website, they have directories of providers and that use Click Medical as well. So you can look it up there. I think also for the United States, you can look it up by state. Sean is asking, what about the weight limit on a below the knee amputee for RevoFit? I'm thinking he's saying RevoFit or RevoSurface. So it was just, I think
I should clarify the point I made earlier. So it has a weight limit, but if you're above that weight limit, you can just add a dial. So it's not like if you're above the weight limit, you can't get the system. You just have to add another dial. So you can still, there is no upper ceiling for having the system.
Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, David. Louise is asking, I'm getting a whole new leg, socket, foot, probably a hydraulic foot is I think what you meant to say, to act as an ankle, and the socket can adjust by a button to turn. Sound familiar? Will it help me walk better? So Louise, that's a very big question to ask, and a lot of it just depends on who you are as an amputee, and I know that sounds like a kind of a catch-all answer. A lot of what depends on how you're walking better. Number one, yes, it is the fit of your socket. For me, it's more important how your socket fits than what's the componentry underneath the socket. You can have a $150,000 microprocessor knee, but if your socket is not fitting properly, you're going to walk around as if it were a peg leg. And the converse is true. When I started working as a physical therapist, we only had very simple door hinge knees and wooden feet. And we could teach our patients to walk beautifully because their prosthetists would make beautiful fitting sockets. So that's the number one thing about walking well with your prosthesis. The second thing is, do you have a physical therapist, right? Are they working on teaching you gait mechanics, how to walk again? Unfortunately, it's not as easy as popping the leg on and going off about your day. There's a lot to be relearned with gait mechanics. And I have lots and lots and lots and lots of videos about that that you can start exploring on the YouTube channel. All right. Sean's like, I hate autocorrect. Don't worry, Sean, we got you. Let's see. So Louise, we're going to talk about that, about how you can talk to your prosthetist a little bit later on in the show. What I want to talk about now is the RevoSurface, because that's kind of what we've been waiting for all evening. And here it is. So guys, here's the story behind this socket. A lot of you guys were teasing me because I would talk a lot about Click Medical and I didn't have the socket. So I sent them an old socket that I had, and it was a completely, rigid socket. And this is what they sent back to me, which is kind of cool. So as you can see, they put in the gap design and they applied the RevoSurface. Okay. So let's talk about the difference between the RevoFit and the RevoSurface. If you look here, this is the RevoFit. Okay. All the wiring is inside. And I probably shouldn't say wiring. Cable is probably the better word to use. Is that a better word?
I think they call it lace.
The lace. Thank you. See, this is what happens when the PT tries to talk prosthetic talk. I should let these guys, because they're the experts. So Ahmad, I'm gonna have you take over on this one.
So that one's looks like a laminated socket that was probably done in 2 stages. So they did a thin lamination, then they laid all that lace on there. They had to pre-plan where the panels would be, where the gap would be, and they laid all the lace on there. Then they did the second lamination on top of it, and then they cut out the panels and the gap, the area that has the gap in the posterior aspect there.
So I'll just loosen this up so you guys can see. Sorry, my fingers are clumsy. How it's in between the lamination, just like Ahmad said, right? So for this kind, you have to make the socket from scratch, right? This is a brand new socket that you have to make. Versus with, you can see that the lacing is on the outside. So that is the biggest difference, is those of you who have a socket right now, and you're not looking right now to get a new socket, but you want to try out the system, Here is the answer, right? And then for your check sockets, do you excuse me, you're using basically the RevoSurface
Yes.
when you
So
get your check sockets?
before we because this product wasn't available, we would use the fit, and in that case, you would
Yeah.
uh, do your lacing around the socket, and then you would wrap it with fiberglass to hold everything in place, and that would kind of cover everything up, and you couldn't see the patient's limb. That's where the surface is great. You can do your lace routing, everything on the exterior, do your diagnostic fit, and the system can be harvested, so you can take it off the socket once it's done and reuse it if need be.
Sounds pretty good. So let me get some of these questions that we're getting in here. Lace, thank you, Claire. Clickman was like, Ahmad, you're 100% correct. Let's see. Susan's asking, do the cables or the lacing ever break? If so, could it cause one to fall? So Billy, what's been your experience with the wear and tear on the lacing?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some lacing break, really highly active patients. We had, a UPS driver jump off the back of the truck and land, and, the force, caused it the laces to pop out. It didn't cause them to fall at all. You're still contained within the socket. But it was a loud popping sound, and kind of scared him a little bit. But yeah, we haven't had any of those failures since moving into the new system. So yeah, I mean, I think they can, if they're not manufactured correctly too by your fabrication facility, whoever's doing them, if they don't follow the instructions and bevel the edges where the lace comes out of the hole. I mean, I'm thinking Mod's probably seen this in the past. When we first started doing a lot of Revo, we made the mistake as a fabrication facility sometimes not to do that. So that was more on our end. But since then, since we perfected and done hundreds and hundreds of these sockets, our failure rate is extremely, extremely small.
Okay.
Yeah, that lace is made with Spectra. It's a type of plastic, but it has like 500 pounds of force that it can withstand. So you'd have to try really hard.
Really hard. See, for me, my test is giving this to my 4 kids and letting them play with it. And it can survive my 4 kids messing around with it. So here, I'm just going to show you guys one more time. So this one is the gap design. Okay, and you guys can hear that as I'm twisting it, it's getting a little bit louder. That's letting me know that it's going to release. Okay, and that's the gap design. So you can see the lacing there. And again, as I start twisting it, it gets a little bit quieter. So that's how I know it. The insides are kind of catching on to everything. And that's where it really starts to tighten up. And again, this is a feature that I was really excited when they came out with the click reel this past year, because you can adjust I call it forward and backwards, right? So you can tighten or loosen it. With the older BOA dial, you could tighten it, but then you'd have to release to loosen the whole thing and start again. So this kind of micro adjustment just kind of makes it a little bit more elegant, in my opinion. So let's see.
I think the other issue we had with breakage is just kind of patients over tightening, trying to get too much adjustability, cranking it down past where it's supposed to really go, putting too much pressure on it. So we've had maybe a couple failures like that, but very few and far between.
And I understand, my understanding is that, over time the cables will fray a little bit, and there's a way to show the patient this is the time to come in and get it relaced. So I know that Click Medical, they have, by the way, guys, those of you who are asking for your, prosthetist's sake, Click Medical has a lot of videos and instructional courses on their website, not only on how to construct, but how to troubleshoot, everything they need to know about this device. So there's a lot of education for them there. Denise is asking, how much bulk does the RevoSurface add to the socket? Not a lot. You can see it right here, Denise. That's it. That's it. So you're looking at, this is the only bulk that's there. And I've had stuff, sorry, let me get out so you guys can see it. As you can see, it's pretty low profile. And again, this dial can be added in different places. So again, this is not where my area of expertise, that's you two to talk about. But I know I do have some patients that they prefer to have it in a certain place because it's a little easier for them to access, or it'll make their clothing fall a certain way. Ahmad, where do you see, like in the above the knee, where do people typically like to have the dial?
Usually it's anterior medial distal, where right around where the valve would be. It depends on the patient, case by case, because some people ride motorcycles, some people ride horseback, so it just depends. We try to find out what their lifestyle is, what they want to do, what they do throughout the day, and try to put it in a area that won't kind of uh, cause any issues for the system itself. Just be out of the way and easy to reach.
There you go.
Mhm.
Hence adjustable. It really
Exactly.
kind of lives up to its name in every way, shape, or form right there. Let's see. Louise is saying, we're making sure that if it's perfectly before I leave with it. I used to be very active, just came from Florida Hanger Clinic and seems to know her stuff, and I stopped physical therapy. Do you recommend? Louise, I'm not sure what the rest of your question is, but in terms of do you recommend physical therapy? Yes, to me. That's my little side box right there is your relationship with your physical therapist is just as important as your relationship with your prosthetist and with your doctor. It's a lifelong relationship, even if you're not an amputee, but especially more so if you are an amputee. Our bodies continue to age. Unfortunately, they also continue to break down along the way, and that's where the physical therapist can kind of help keep things running smoothly. All right, let's see. Jamie, would you be able to post those 2 links again for the social media giveaway? Guys, go ahead and try it again. Let's see. Kaiser is asking, how do the laces hold up in very cold temperatures? -40 up here for at least 3 months of the year. So I know in Kentucky and Florida, we don't get -40. But
Yeah, I'm gonna kick that to Click.
Yeah, they are in
Jamie?
Colorado.
They're up there in snow country, so
Yeah.
we'll kick
Yeah,
that over to
they're.
them.
I've got my Canucks on board that come listen in every week, so they're going to be asking those questions. Click Medical is saying it's the same lace used to catch alligators. Are you serious? Like, I'm in gator country. I literally have like 5 gators in my neighborhood that I have to keep an eye on. So I'm just going to get myself some Click Medical lace, and I'm going to go, hog tie them, and let's. Yeah. Let's see. So David says, I've had the lace break, but never fell when it happened. No, Susan, if the lace does break, it's something that you take back to your prosthetist and then they relace it again. Let's see. Oh, Jerry Ann, well, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you got those drain tubes out, because yes, those are exquisitely painful. Can you walk with a broken lace? So guys, have you seen, it's not really something that.
Yeah, I mean, you could walk with a broken lace. I mean, you can still utilize socks but I would recommend just getting into your process as soon as you can. Depends on where the panels are located and so forth. So, but yeah, you can walk on a broken lace system.
Okay. So the social media winner for our winner is Rob Samuel. So Rob, congratulations. You can go ahead and email me. I'll put my email there up there again. Send me your address. All right. So if the laces do break, guys, and you lose the adjustability, you can also just add the socks in until you get to your prosthetist, just to kind of get you to the prosthetist office as well. Okay. So let's, one thing I do want to clarify is the kit, because that's something that sometimes confuses folks, that they don't understand how this Revo is made. So a lot of folks think that they're buying the socket. Okay. So let me just kind of clarify that. If you talk to your prosthetist and they say, yes, RevoFit or RevoSurface is the way for you, your prosthetist is still the one making the socket. Okay. What they will get from Click Medical is a little box, and it has all the components that are needed to put the adjustability into it. Okay. So once again, your prosthetist is the one making the socket, and they're receiving a kit to build the adjustability in. Look at him getting all fancy with the diagrams and everything like that. There we go. That's everything that's contained in that RevoFit kit. And one thing I also want to add, guys, A lot of people will think that this is a magic cure for everything in a socket. It is not the magic cure, okay? It depends upon the skill of the prosthetist. And this is where I kind of put the onus on my prosthetist colleagues here, right? They still have to fit a well-fitting socket. The adjustability is the icing on that cake, okay? If the socket is not well built, it doesn't matter what adjustability, it doesn't matter what fancy elevated vacuum system you put into it or any other bells and whistles, it's not going to fit well, okay? So the whole point of adjustability, again, is just to give you that better fit to prevent you having to take your socket on and off 40 million times a day. Yes? Okay, that's the Cozy Talk soapbox. I just had to get that one out of the way. Let's see. Go ahead. Yeah, okay. You're with me on that one.
Amen to that.
Okay, so Sean is asking, and this is a question that I always like to address on the show. Why is my prosthetist determined to just keep me in a regular socket? So guys, what is your advice to folks out there whose prosthetist may be a little hesitant to try adjustability? What advice would you give them?
Well, I mean, so trying new technology is always tricky. I mean, I think for everybody, not only for you guys as patients trying new technology, but for the process as well. I assume your process probably has a system in which they take care of people, and they've been successful doing it a certain way for a long time. So trying new technology can sometimes be problematic in anybody's field, right? I mean, if you look at surgeons or attorneys or whatever profession you're into, trying something new is always difficult. Ultimately, patients have a choice too. And it's okay to get second and third opinions and talk to other people about what's important for you, and that's okay. You have the choice to see whom you want to see. And not all fits are the right fit for, the right people, the right person. So I think just keeping an open mind and open conversations with your process and those who are taking care of you and your physician that's referring you as well.
Absolutely. And Ahmad, I'd love to hear your opinion on this one.
I would just direct them to Click's website, really, because I think they've done a fantastic job of describing what these devices do, along with like tutorials, guides. You can chat with them. So there's a lot of resources available there for the patients as well as the prosthetists and fabricators, so they can kind of get some knowledge about what this system offers.
Mm-hmm. And guys, I'll just kind of piggyback on those answers and saying, a lot of times I find a couple of different reasons why folks might be hesitant. Number one, that they simply don't know about the product. So I know that before I met Click Medical, like I said, there's other options out there in the community. I've seen a couple that are nice, but I saw some that I really just did not like what I saw. So when a patient would approach me about adjustability, I'd always be like hemming and hawing about it, right? Until I got out there and I started learning about the different options. So that's usually the reason why I see hesitancy in some clinicians. The other thing that I see is sometimes I think folks think that it's going to be, again, the magic cure for a socket, right? So what your prosthetist might be trying to tell you is maybe this is not what we need to solve the problem with your socket right now, right? What I encourage you is when your prosthetist says no to adjustable sockets, ask them why, and just find out what is the reasoning behind their thinking. Guys, I've said it a lot on the show. There's no one fit, and Billy just mentioned it. There is no one fit, no one solution for everybody. So do I think that everybody should have an adjustable socket? No. But do I think that everyone should be having a conversation with their prosthetist at some point in time? Yeah, I think it's a great conversation just to have and just say, hey, is this an option for me? And then from your part, okay, what you need to let your prosthetist know is this is what I would like adjustability for. Okay, so if your prosthetist is hearing you say that, yeah, I'm having to take my leg off every hour, every 2 hours, that's a lot. Okay, so if you present them with the arguments of this is why I want to consider adjustability, and goodness knows we've given you guys lots of great talking points, not just tonight, but in a lot of previous shows, I think that's also going to help with the communication with your prosthetist. And then the other part, which I'm going to tie this one in like a neat little bow, is if you have an existing socket and your prosthetist is a little hesitant, this is where the RevoSurface might be a really great option, because they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They don't have to make you a brand new socket. You can say, hey, can we just try this out on my existing socket and see if it works? Yeah. How did I do with that one, Jamie? That one was good, right? That was good.
Nailed it.
Okay, let's see. Let me scroll through. So Sean says, I was told people don't do good with adjustable sockets. So again, Sean, my argument there with that one is, number one, are you using the right kind? Is the rest of the socket constructed properly? And are you using the adjustability properly? Right. So Billy mentioned a little earlier in the show that sometimes people might get overly aggressive, right, and have some problems with the socket. So guys, have you heard those comments, and how would be your response to that?
You'll have to repeat their question. I'm sorry.
To say, so if somebody says, I was told people don't do well with adjustable sockets.
Well, you don't know until you try it. That's where I think adding RevoSurface is such a big deal, because now you can have adjustability in the diagnostic phase. So you don't have to go to a finished socket. If your prosthetist is hesitant, you can, next time you're doing a diagnostic fitting, you can ask them, hey, can we try this during the diagnostic stage? If they're unsure about letting you go home with it, let's do it in a security of the office setting, the clinic setting. So that's where I think the Surface gives the prosthetist an additional option if they're not comfortable adding this to a definitive device.
Okay. So guys, I am posting the last question for the last giveaway tonight. Okay, and I'm posting it up just so some of you guys like to read it. What is the biggest difference between RevoSurface and RevoFit? So this is for my smarty cats who have hopefully been listening carefully to the show tonight. So guys, this is the last Yeti mug I am raffling off tonight. So in the comment section, just a brief description. What is the biggest difference between RevoFit and RevoSurface?
Can I take part in this? Or?
No, I'll need to get some Yeti mugs. I will say, like, come on, we're gonna, Jamie, can we? I'm like giving away the mugs. Let's see. I got to give a shout out to Greg. There's another wonderful prosthetist right there on board. And another one, Robert. We got a lot of prosthetists on board. No pressure tonight, guys. So Robert brings up a good point. He says, everything about prosthetics is custom to the person, to the situation, to the lifestyle. Revo is awesome for the right person and should definitely be explored and discussed with your prosthetist for different situations. And that's coming from another really wonderful prosthetist right there, guys.
Yeah, he's right.
Prosthetist.
Yeah, I mean, he's dead on, right? I mean,
Yep.
we don't use a Revo socket for every one of our patients, but it's an option in the toolbox to take care of everybody and their individuality, right? It's another tool in the toolbox to make sure that we have all the tools to make sure that everybody's taken care of.
Yep. And Mark is asking, because of adjustability, shouldn't it make sense for new amputees with the first socket? Yes, it should make sense to have that as a conversation. Yes, absolutely. Other factors are into play. And again, that's where the expert of the prosthetists, who have a wide knowledge of all the different types of technology that are out there. But as Billy just said beautifully, it's another tool in the basket right there to use. Sorry. Trying to read. You guys got a lot of comments. And guys, after I close the show down, I am going to go back through all the comments. So if I missed your question, if I missed your comment, don't be shy about sending me an email and saying, hey, Cozy, you didn't answer my question. Please answer it. All right. So our last winner for the evening is Emily. So Emily, I know you know my email address. So I want you to send me your address so we can get you your Yeti mug. Sean saying, Cozy Talks, I tried to join the show tonight because I knew Click Medical was going to be on the show. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that support very, very much. So David is saying laces in, laces out. So the answer, guys, the difference between the RevoSurface and the RevoFit, the RevoFit you build into a new socket. And yes, laces in. Somebody wrote in, laces out. That's a really quick way of putting it. I like that. RevoSurface is built onto your existing socket. Yes? All right, guys. You guys did good tonight. You guys did good. All right, let's see. Let me make sure I got all these comments as much as I can.
I did see a question. I'm not sure who asked if the system added weight to a socket. It shouldn't, other than the components that are on it, which are just this dial. It doesn't weigh much. So there shouldn't be a whole lot of added weight to this is the socket itself.
Yep, it's basically the weight of the dial itself, because the laces, even though apparently you can wrestle an alligator with them, they don't. I'm gonna go try that. They don't weigh very much. All right, guys, this has been a whirlwind evening. We've put in, I think we've thrown everything in the kitchen sink at you this evening. This is my last show of the year with Click Medical, and I'm a little sad about that because it's been a wonderful second year. So again, guys, cannot say enough nice things. And express my gratitude to Click Medical for being such a wonderful team. Jamie, Jen, and Joe, you guys have been a wonderful support. Thank you. Ahmad and Billy, you guys got thrown into the hot seat tonight and then some. So thank you guys again. Thank you to Kenney Orthopaedics. Those of y'all who are in, there goes the y'all again. When those of you all in Kentucky and in Indiana, how many locations?
In North Carolina. So we have
North Carolina.
22 locations.
Okay. 22 locations. So guys, show these folks some love, look them up, follow them on Instagram and Facebook as well. So as always, guys, thank you for letting us be a part of your lives this evening. We will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.